Blog Talk Radio.
Chag HaSukkot Sameach. Happy harvest here, a.k.a. Shabuot, a.k.a. Pentecoste, a.k.a. the giving of the Holy Spirit, the Ila in the upper room of Zion. Here from this day, here in the season, we have May 25th, also African Liberation Day, forward for the next 3 days, to the first day, to the Sunday, to the resurrection. You know, the resurrection feast of the Holy Spirit in the upper room of Zion, coming forward. So right here, this evening, and here's the word sound that we play often on this eve here, the Thursday podcast, Upper Room of Zion, Acts of the Apostles. Chapter 1, verse
Then returned they
13.
unto Jerusalem from the mount called Olivet, which is from Jerusalem a Sabbath day's journey. And when they were come in, they went up into an upper room, where abode both Peter and James and John and Andrew, Philip and Thomas, Bartholomew and Matthew, James the son of Alphaeus, and Simon Zelotes, and Judas the brother of James. These all continued with one accord in prayer and supplication with the women, and Mary the mother of Jesus, and with his brethren.
In the upper room of Zion, where the Holy Spirit was given, 50th day, 7 times 7, 49, and on the morrow after, so the day, 28th of May, but here in the season of harvest. The harvest is ready. Yay.
And when they were come in, they went up into an upper room. They went up into an upper room.
Moa and Besa ze imne gede Yehuda. Yala chukulu. Let the goose niggas to a little bello. Let the goose niggas to a little bello. Let the goose niggas to a little bello. Let's move Zemru. Let's move Mazemru. Let me scan a web cover it. Let me scan a web cover it.
And when they were come in, they went up into an upper room. They went up into an upper room.
So here appointed for this season, the book of Ruth, a meditation. This is also in the Brit HaYashana, in the Torah, and in the Old Testament. This is also the time of the giving of the law, the giving of the 10 words on Har Sinai. So from Sinai to Mount Zion, and here in the Medi, right here, the book of Ruth. Give here and here. Wise.
When my eyes was at my knees, yes, if I see a Rasta man, I've just got to be free.
The Book of Ruth, Chapter 1. Now it came to pass in the days when the judges ruled that there was a famine in the land. And a certain man of Bethlehem, Judah, went to sojourn in the country of Moab, he and his wife and his 2 sons. And the name of the man was Elimelech, and the name of his wife Naomi. And the name of his 2 sons, Mahlon and Chilion, Ephrathites of Bethlehem, Judah. And they came into the country of Moab and continued there. And Elimelech, Naomi's husband, died, and she was left and her 2 sons. And they took them wives of the women of Moab. The name of the one was Orpah, and the name of the other Ruth. And they dwelled there about 10 years. And Mahlon and Chilion died also, both of them, and the woman was left of her 2 sons and her husband. Then she arose with her daughters-in-law, that she might return from the country of Moab. For she had heard in the country of Moab how that the Lord had visited his people in giving them bread. Wherefore she went forth out of the place where she was, and her 2 daughters-in-law with her, and they went on the way to return unto the land of Judah. And Naomi said unto her 2 daughters-in-law, Go, return each to her mother's house. The Lord deal kindly with you, as ye have dealt with the dead and with me. The Lord grant you that ye may find rest, each of you in the house of her husband. Then she kissed them, and they lifted up their voice and wept. And they said unto her, Surely we will return with thee unto thy people. And Naomi said, Turn again, my daughters, why will ye go with me? Are there yet any more sons in my womb, that they may be your husbands? Turn again, my daughters, go your way, for I am too old to have an husband. If I should say, I have hope, if I should have an husband also tonight, and should also bear sons, would ye tarry for them till they were grown? Would ye stay for them from having husbands? Nay, my daughters, for it grieveth me much for your sakes that the hand of the Lord is gone out against me. And they lifted up their voice and wept again. And Orpah kissed her mother-in-law, but Ruth clave unto her. And she said, Behold, thy sister-in-law is gone back unto her people and unto her gods. Return thou after thy sister-in-law. And Ruth said, Entreat me not to leave thee or to return from following after thee. For whither thou goest, I will go, and where thou lodgest, I will lodge. Thy people shall be my people, and thy God my God. Where thou diest, will I die, and there will I be buried. The Lord do so to me, and more also, if aught but death part thee and me. When she saw that she was steadfastly minded to go with her, then she left speaking unto her. So they 2 went until they came to Bethlehem. And it came to pass, when they were come to Bethlehem, that all the city was moved about them. And they said, Is this Naomi? And she said unto them, Call me not Naomi, call me Mara. For the Almighty hath dealt very bitterly with me. I went out full, and the Lord hath brought me home again empty. Why then call ye me Naomi, seeing the Lord hath testified against me, and the Almighty hath afflicted me? So Naomi returned, and Ruth the Moabitess, her daughter-in-law, with her, which returned out of the country of Moab, and they came to Bethlehem in the beginning of barley harvest. Chapter 2. And Naomi had a kinsman of her husband's, a mighty man of wealth, of the family of Elimelech, and his name was Boaz. And Ruth the Moabitess said unto Naomi, Let me now go to the field and glean ears of corn, after him in whose sight I shall find grace. And she said unto her, Go, my daughter. And she went, and came, and gleaned in the field after the reapers. And her hap was to light on a part of the field belonging unto Boaz, who was of the kindred of Elimelech. And behold, Boaz came from Bethlehem, and said unto the reapers, The Lord be with you. And they answered him, The Lord bless thee. Then said Boaz unto his servant that was set over the reapers, Whose damsel is this? And the servant that was set over the reapers answered and said, It is the Moabitish damsel that came back with Naomi out of the country of Moab. And she said, I pray you let me glean and gather after the reapers among the sheaves. So she came, and hath continued even from the morning until now, that she tarried a little in the house. Then said Boaz unto Ruth, Hearest thou not, my daughter? Go not to glean in another field, neither go from hence, but abide here fast by my maidens. Let thine eyes be on the field that they do reap, and go thou after them. Have I not charged the young men that they shall not touch thee? And when thou art athirst, go unto the vessels, and drink of that which the young men have drawn. Then she fell on her face, and bowed herself to the ground, and said unto him, Why have I found grace in thine eyes, that thou shouldest take knowledge of me, seeing I am a stranger? And Boaz answered and said unto her, It hath fully been showed me all that thou hast done unto thy mother-in-law since the death of thine husband, and how thou hast left thy father and thy mother and the land of thy nativity, and art come unto a people which thou knewest not heretofore. The Lord recompense thy work, and a full reward be given thee of the Lord God of Israel, under whose wings thou art come to trust. Then she said, Let me find favor in thy sight, my Lord, for that thou hast comforted me, and for that thou hast spoken friendly unto thine handmaid, though I be not like unto one of thine handmaidens. And Boaz said unto her, At mealtime come thou hither, and eat of the bread, and dip thy morsel in the vinegar. And she sat beside the reapers, and he reached her parched corn, and she did eat, and was sufficed. and left. And when she was risen up to glean, Boaz commanded his young men, saying, Let her glean even among the sheaves, and reproach her not. And let fall also some of the handfuls of purpose for her, and leave them, that she may glean them, and rebuke her not. So she gleaned in the field until even, and beat out that she had gleaned, and it was about an ephah of barley. And she took it up, and went into the city. And her mother-in-law saw what she had gleaned. And she brought forth and gave to her that she had reserved after she was sufficed. And her mother-in-law said unto her, Where hast thou gleaned today? And where wroughtest thou? Blessed be he that did take knowledge of thee. And she showed her mother-in-law with whom she had wrought, and said, The man's name with whom I wrought today is Boaz. And Naomi said unto her daughter-in-law, Blessed be he of the Lord, who hath not left off his kindness to the living and to the dead. And Naomi said unto her, The man is near of kin unto us, one of our next kinsmen. And Ruth the Moabitess said, He said unto me also, Thou shalt keep fast by my young men until they have ended all my harvest. And Naomi said unto Ruth her daughter-in-law, It is good, my daughter, that thou go out with his maidens, that they meet thee not in any other field. So she kept fast by the maidens of Boaz to glean unto the end of barley harvest and of wheat harvest, and dwelt with her mother-in-law. Chapter 3. Then Naomi her mother-in-law said unto her, My daughter, shall I not seek rest for thee, that it may be well with thee? And now, is not Boaz of our kindred, with whose maidens thou wast? Behold, he winnoweth barley tonight in the threshing floor. Wash thyself therefore, and anoint thee, and put thy raiment upon thee, and get thee down to the floor. But make not thyself known unto the man until he shall have done eating and drinking. And it shall be, when he lieth down, that thou shalt mark the place where he shall lie, and thou shalt go in and uncover his feet, and lay thee down, and he will tell thee what thou shalt do. And she said unto her, All that thou sayest unto me I will do. And she went down unto the floor, and did according to all that her mother-in-law bade her. And when Boaz had eaten and drunk, and his heart was merry, he went to lie down at the end of the heap of corn. And she came softly, and uncovered his feet, and laid her down. And it came to pass at midnight, that the man was afraid, and turned himself, and behold, a woman lay at his feet. And he said, Who art thou? And she answered, I am Ruth, thine handmaid. Spread therefore thy skirt over thine handmaid, for thou art a near kinsman. And he said, Blessed be thou of the Lord, my daughter, for thou hast showed more kindness in the latter end than at the beginning, inasmuch as thou followedst not young men, whether poor or rich. And now, my daughter, fear not. I will do to thee all that thou requirest. For all the city of my people doth know that thou art a virtuous woman. And now it is true that I am thy near kinsman. Howbeit, there is a kinsman nearer than I. Tarry this night, and it shall be in the morning, that if he will perform unto thee the part of a kinsman, well, let him do the kinsman's part. But if he will not do the part of a kinsman to thee, then will I do the part of a kinsman to thee, as the Lord liveth. Lie down until the morning. And she lay at his feet until the morning, and she rose up before one could know another. And he said, Let it not be known that a woman came into the floor. Also he said, Bring the veil that thou hast upon thee, and hold it. And when she held it, he measured 6 measures of barley, and laid it on her, and she went into the city. And when she came to her mother-in-law, she said, Who art thou, my daughter? And she told her all that the man had done to her. And she said, These 6 measures of barley gave he me, for he said to me, Go not empty unto thy mother-in-law. Then said she, Sit still, my daughter, until thou know how the matter will fall. For the man will not be in rest until he have finished the thing this day. Chapter 4. Then went Boaz up to the gate, and sat him down there. And behold, the kinsman of whom Boaz spake came by, unto whom he said, Ho, such a one, turn aside, sit down here. And he turned aside and sat down. And he took 10 men of the elders of the city, and said, Sit ye down here. And they sat down. And he said unto the kinsman, Naomi, that is come again out of the country of Moab, selleth a parcel of land which was our brother Elimelech's. And I thought to advertise thee, saying, Buy it before the inhabitants and before the elders of my people. If thou wilt redeem it, redeem it. But if thou wilt not redeem it, then tell me, that I may know. For there is none to redeem it beside thee, and I am after thee. And he said, I will redeem it. Then said Boaz, what day thou buyest the field of the hand of Naomi, thou must buy it also of Ruth the Moabitess, the wife of the dead, to raise up the name of the dead upon his inheritance. And the kinsman said, I cannot redeem it for myself, lest I mar mine own inheritance. Redeem thou my right to thyself, for I cannot redeem it. Now this was the manner in former time in Israel concerning redeeming and concerning changing, for to confirm all things. A man plucked off his shoe and gave it to his neighbor, and this was a testimony in Israel. Therefore the kinsman said unto Boaz, Buy it for thee. So he drew off his shoe. And Boaz said unto the elders and unto all the people, Ye are witnesses this day that I have bought all that was Elimelech's and all that was Chilion's and Mahlon's of the hand of Naomi. Moreover, Ruth the Moabitess, the wife of Mahlon, have I purchased to be my wife, to raise up the name of the dead upon his inheritance, that the name of the dead be not cut off from among his brethren and from the gate of his place. Ye are witnesses this day. And all the people that were in the gate and the elders said, We are witnesses. The Lord make the woman that is come into thine house like Rachel and like Leah, which two did build the house of Israel, and do thou worthily in Ephratah, and be famous in Bethlehem. And let thy house be like the house of Pharez, whom Tamar bare unto Judah, of the seed which the Lord shall give thee of this young woman. So Boaz took Ruth, and she was his wife. And when he went in unto her, the Lord gave her conception, and she bare a son. And the women said unto Naomi, Blessed be the Lord, which hath not left thee this day without a kinsman, that his name may be famous in Israel. And he shall be unto thee a restorer of thy life, and a nourisher of thine old age. For thy daughter-in-law, which loveth thee, which is better to thee than 7 sons, hath borne him. And Naomi took the child, and laid it in her bosom, and became nurse unto it. And the women her neighbors gave it a name, saying, There is a son born to Naomi. And they called his name Obed. He is the father of Jesse, the father of David. Now these are the generations of Pharez. Pharez begat Hezron, and Hezron begat Ram, and Ram begat Amminadab, and Amminadab begat Nahshon, and Nahshon begat Salmon, and Salmon begat Boaz, and Boaz begat Obed, and Obed begat Jesse, and Jesse begat David. The end of the book of Ruth.
Yes. One of the appointed readings and meditations for harvest and the harvest season. Very, very interesting, the book of Ruth. And in particular, just draw out right here. In particular, is a theme that we find in the book of Ruth. Now, book of Ruth, once again, Hebraically, Judaically, from the Old Covenant sense, the giving of the 10 words, the Decalogue, the Eseret HaDibarim on Har Sinai, on Mount Sinai. This is corresponding with 50 days after the Yetziat, the Sa'at, the coming out from the Het Kapita, from Egypt, from Mitzrayim. So 50 days after, 7 Shabbats, and on the morrow after the 7th Shabbat was the giving of the Torah in the context of the 10 words that we have in Exodus chapter 20. But there's a point right here, book of Ruth, giving the background on the Davidic, on part of the Davidic lineage, Boaz and Ruth and Cherut and Ruth. But in chapter 3, verse 9 is an interesting verse. And he said, Who art thou? When she was laying at his feet in the barn. And she answered, I am Ruth, thy handmaid. And she said something interesting. Spread therefore thy skirt over thine handmaid. And then she adds to that, thou art a near kinsman. So there's a principle of redeeming and redemption to be brought out of this as well. Here appointed for the season of harvest, of Shabuot, Pentecost within the New Testament sense, signifying the 7 Sabbaths, Shabbats, Shabuas, weeks, Shabuot, and on the morrow after the 7th Shabbat. So that's clearly a first day appointed appointed out-called gathering and appointed feast, one of the seven, the middle of the seven. So we have the three that occur first in the season known as Passover, Pesach. There's Passover, there's Days of Unleavened Bread, and then there is the first fruits. Now, the first fruits links here in the count with Shabuot, or with harvest to come, 50 days after, or 7 weeks, 7 Shabbats. I emphasize Shabbats because there's the morrow, the next day after the 7th Shabbat. But here in Ruth chapter 3, verse 9, just to zoom in on this, and this has to do with certain ancient Hebrew and Israelite matrimony, like word sound, the word sound. So when I heard that in the Dubwise, the remix, that was Alexander Scorby, I think the scientist, dub, classic scientist, scientist dub, backing right there. I said, Chan, let's illuminate a little bit on this. Since the book of Ruth is one of the books that's read, the main book appointed to be read during this season, as we had Song of Songs for Pesach, for Passover, the certain books, the meditation. So here in verse 9, right here in verse 9, and he said, let's just bring out the Hebrew right here, Wayomer, and he said, Wa and Yomer, he saying, right, me at, me who at, to say like you speaking to a woman, at, right, Wa tomer, Wa and tomer, and she said, so Yomer, he said, Tomer, she said, Anoki, I self, Anoki, root, Amateka, Amateka, thy handmaid. Then she goes on to say, farasta kanafecha al Amateka. She says, spread, farasta, speaking to him is like a command, farasta to faras, like to spread, farasta, the I male spread, kanafeka. The kanf or the kanaf. Kanaf is like the wings. Now, some go into some reasonment that the tzitzits, the fringes, are likened to these wings, and that signifies like either a type of a talit or a netala or some sort of a shawl with those sort of fringes. And it was spread like the edge of your garment, right? The edge of your garment or your like shawl, like over, over your handmaiden. So she speaks in a kind of a third person sense directly to him. And then she says this, ki goel, ata, ki goel, the redeemer, my related. The sense is actually goel here, the word for that's translated as kinsman redeemer, goel, right, is from Gaal. Gaal, right, means to redeem. And in redeeming, one acts as a kinsman redeemer. Now, in the Torah studies, there's some principles that we go over. When it says, like, say, if you have a brother and he sold his piece of land, that, he or maybe another relation could redeem that land. So the basic sense is redeemer, and this is where we get this idea, even among latter-day, like, Christians and Christianity, of the kinsman redeemer applied there to the Moshiach Yeshua. So it's to redeem, to Ga'al is to redeem, to act as a kinsman redeemer, but it also has a sense, when necessary, to avenge or to revenge. But the direct sense is to ransom. And in ransoming, this is part of the direct sense of doing the part of a kinsman. So doing the part of a kinsman and acting as a kinsman redeemer. Usually, in the context of the book of Ruth, appointed for Shabuot, the harvest, and the Pentecost season, by marrying the brother's widow to beget a child for him. If he passed away and there was no child, to beget a child for him, to redeem from slavery. The next sense, from like some bondage. Like, say you may have a brother and he might have been adjudicated to owe a debt. a debt that he does not have, like the shekels, the shekalim, doesn't have the silver, or he doesn't have anything to kind of like pay that particular debt. So he now has to go into a state of work. You know, it's like a kind of like a forced work situation to basically work off the debt. So you have to work for somebody, go under someone else's employ. Now, a kinsman, right, or a brother or whatnot, a kinsman could now pay whatever that debt is. So therefore, it's like they paid off that debt. Now that one is free to come back to their own inheritance, do whatever their work is, because the courts might have adjudicated them, you know, in some suit, a civil suit, as Torah goes into many of those acts that he committed a wrongdoing. He wrongdid his brother or one in business, and now he owes this particular debt. So that's the next sense of redeeming, to redeem one. They often say slavery, but from a work, you know, work employ, like a forced work employ, right? To pay off that debt, to redeem land, or one might even, as they say, sell themselves or put themselves into another's employ, you know, in order to, you know, basically make money. You know, even in the ancient principle, this was, but it's regulated here in HaTorah. There's the next sense of redeeming the land, as we mentioned. Perhaps there's some sort of debt or something, and one has inheritance land. And so one might, quote, sell, not so much sell, though it's translated like that, but the context of Torah is basically rent out, lease the land. So it'd be like they would rent the land to another Israelite or to a stranger or someone else, you know, for a certain period of time. But often if that land is not, the land needs to be bought back, right? The land needs to be bought back because only the Israelites, according to HaTorah and the covenant, those who can trace that pedigree from the patriarchs are, you could say, land owners after the landlord, Yahweh Jehovah. So that land needs to be redeemed, needs to be purchased back. That's why the Torah says the land shall not be, I think it uses in translation, sold indefinitely or in perpetuity, like forever. The land would not be sold forever. So the idea of selling basically is exchange of money, but the context is that the land is being like rented, so to speak, you know. But to avoid any like complex situations, fellow relative, you know, or fellow relation or brother should redeem the land, or the one who even sold it might have to do that. The last sense of the goel, right, or the other sense of the goel, is to exact vengeance, right? It's to exact vengeance, right? But the direct sense is to redeem by some sort of a payment. And then we get the kind of the theological or the spiritual, metaphysical applications of it, even in Torah and the prophets, to redeem with Elohim, Hailahim as the subject, right? And when Elohim now redeems in this context, it's like individuals from death, as we have in many testimonies in the scripts, even in many Psalms, that sense of redeeming my life. That means you saved my life. You know, you paid whatever price it was so that I still have my life, you know, from that certain death in the situation. Israel, for example, from the Mitzri, the Tawi, you know, bondage. And also Yisrael, Yasharala, even these latter days and times after the 400 years, from the exile situation. Now, in redeeming, Ga'al in the Hebrew, a kinsman redeemer, a goel, one may redeem oneself, right? One can redeem themselves, as it points out in HaTorah, that one can redeem themselves. Maybe you didn't have the shekels to pay off the debt, but somehow you came into that, so now you can pay that off, and you are released from that particular work, you know, to pay off debt situation. So a redeemer from the Ga'al, according to the Oriental law of kinship, the Oriental law, when we say Oriental, the Ethiopian Orthodox Church is part of the Oriental, we could say not so much East, we say East, right? But really it's the Oriental churches, which basically is another word that means the East. but the Oriental law, the Eastern law of kinship, right? Like in East Africa, Arabia, them regions there, that is to be next of kin. And as such, to buy back a relative's property, to buy back a next relation's property, right? It's kind of interesting. I think about some of the family, the Geechee and the Gullah, Gaal, right? Where that often goes on, though we have land even in the South, there's like, the taxes. And if one doesn't pay the so-called taxes on the land, even though it might be family property, potentially it could be bought by others. So therefore, one must buy back a relative's property. And in the Hebrew sense, also extended is to even marry his widow, and the idea of the legal, lawful, certain types of protection, right, according to the Torah and the ancient custom, right? So here we have this exchange where she says to Boaz, right, therefore, like to spread, therefore, thy skirt over thy handmaid. So we'd like to just kind of share right here, even from Ruth, which is part of the Octatech, Ethiopically speaking, and according to the Beta Israel and according to, the Royal Order of the Ethiopian Hebrews, our Torah or Pentateuch is not a Pentateuch. Pentateuch means like 5 volumes, as we have Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, Deuteronomy. But in the Beta Israel of the East, right, in their Torah sense, Orit sense, it's actually the Octatech. So Penta is like 5 volumes, Pentateuch, and Octatech is 8 volumes. And of those 8 volumes, in addition to the Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, Deuteronomy, would be Joshua, right, Judges, right, and Ruth. So Ruth is a part of that particular reading. So it's one of the more ancient, you could say, scrolls within the Hebrew, Israelite, and Judaic tribe. Now, we looked up spread and skirt to say, well, where does the translator translate it after this particular language that, according to ancient Hebraic, Judaic, marriage vows, like when people take their vows, notice, ones take their vows, as Torah talk about vows, right? What is a vow? This is part of the word that is said, right, from a Israelite and a Hebrew perspective. These very words are spreading the skirt. And an example we have in Yechezkel, Ezekiel, right? Ezekiel chapter 16, verse 8, bringing out that sense that we have in Ruth chapter 3, verse 9. We have, now when I pass by thee. Now here, Yahweh Eloheinu, Jehovah is speaking to Yasharala, Yisrael. But the context from the Hebrew is he's speaking to her almost as a man would speak to a woman, right? Or like a husband will speak to a wife in that sense. So I want us to understand this level of the prophetic revelation of that intimacy, right, between I and the Almighty. Here in Ezekiel chapter 16, verse 8, it says, now when I passed by thee, I looked upon thee. Behold, thy time was the time of love. And I spread my skirts over thee. So these words right here even were adopted, right, and were utilized. The principle, we have it all the way in Ruth, right, from the pre-Davidic times. And then we have in Ezekiel in the prophetic times, this analogy, this metaphor, right, being spoken prophetically to Yasharala, to call Yisrael, to Israel and to Judah, right, in order to bring out a deeper sense of it. So he says, now when I passed by thee, I looked upon thee, and behold, thy time was the time of love. And I spread my skirt over thee. So when they talk about the skirt, it's really talking about the kanaf. The kanaf is like the wings of the garment. So if you have an Ethiopian, like netala, right, or Hebraically, Judaically, the talit, at the end, it has the fringes, right, the Ethiopic netalas, and the other sort of shawls traditionally have those fringes, like Hebraically, the tzitzits, right? And that there is often what is implied. So those talking about the actual kanaf in the Hebrew, kins, right, within the Amharic, coming from the Ethiopic root, means the wing, the extremity, the edge, the wing, the border, which is like the corner of a garment. KJV, they translate it as like a skirt, so to speak. But usually it would be like the long and the large garment, or it could be like a kind of a shama, like a kind of a covering. So often in the marriage, Hebraically, Judaically, from the ancient time, the wedding is the ceremony. So really, literally, it will be at the wedding. The marriage is a little more of an intimate thing. You know what I'm saying? According to principle. But the wedding is the ceremony. So that wedding before the community to announce what's going on, so everyone is up to date and aware. You know what I mean? These sort of words would be said when the man would take his shawl and he would cover his woman, and he would pronounce these words to her and to the community, so it be known. Therefore, when we look into Torah, when it speaks about like adultery or fornication, and it talks about uncovering nakedness, one can understand the Hebrew view, not the Gentile mindset where people are repeating Roman rites and rituals, which could be good if people keep the principle of what that covenant is about. But here, Hebraically bringing out this word right here where it says, and I spread my skirt over thee and cover thy nakedness, where in Leviticus and in the Torah, it says, thou shalt not uncover the nakedness. So one can see the symbolic act, but what is referring to. Yea, I swear to thee, going on here in Ezekiel chapter 16, verse 8, I swear to thee, and entered into a covenant with thee. So that whole marriage rite, right, and the wedding, the ceremony, as it were, and the pronouncement of the words, Yahweh, Jehovah himself now is putting himself within that character, that role of the true, we could say Baal, the true husband, right, of the soul, the psyche of Yasharallah, of Yisrael, of she. So here we have this right here, which just bringing out the Hebrew sense of this right here that we just shared, right? He says, Wa ebor alayik, and I abar, ebor, from abar, like Hebrew, to cross over, and I pass by, upon thee. Wa ebor alayik, wa erek, and I saw. Wa and erek, and I saw, like I saw thee speaking to she. Wehine, and look and see, right? Etek, your time, speaking to she. Etek, 8 was a time, Dodim. Now, Dodim, the translation says was a time of love, right? Dodim, from Dod. Dod, a contraction of Dawad, where we get Dawid, right? David, we often bring it out as the well-beloved or the beloved, because it's from that very root right there, Dod, Dawad. Beloved, loved, also can refer in the context as a title to uncle is a Dod, right? But a loved one, Dod or Dodi, like my love, beloved one, or my uncle, love in an abstract sense. So what he's saying here, it was the 8th. It was a time, the Iowa of Dodim. It was a time of love. So bringing out a time for the beloved, like the beloved ones in that sense, but in a more intimate, like a man and woman, or Elohim, right? And chosen people in Yasharallah context. And then he goes on to say, Wa Ephros, and I spread. I'm like spreading. I spread because I'm spreading. Wa Ephros, Kanafi, my wings. Literally, my wings, or like the edge of my garment. Kanafi, alayik, upon you, speaking to she, right? speaking to Yasharala here in the prophet Ezekiel chapter 16, verse 8. Right? Wa akase, wa akase, wa and akase, akase, and I cover, right? And I cover ervatek, modern Hebrew ervatek or erwatek, your nakedness, right? Wa eshaba lak, eshaba to shaba. Eshaba is to say, like, I oath, I seven myself from shaba to seven. So here is also the word for oath, but the literal ancient Hebraic sense, I seven myself, right? Like I seven myself, like it's like a sevenfold sense. Oath is like a sevenfold sense. Wa eshaba lak, and I oath, right? I take a solemn promise. I seven myself lak to you, speaking to she, right? Wa abo, right? Wa abo, and I enter in, Wa avo, modern Hebrew vavo, more ancient Afro-Shemitic pointing, wa abo, and I enter vivrit, be in berit, in covenant, otak, speaking to she, speaking directly with you, speaking to she. Nu'um, here we have Nu'um. The translator translates it as saith, but in the Hebrew sense, the Nu'um from Na'am is actually an oracle. It's actually an oracle. So what we have here is like an utterance, a declaration in the oracular sense, like always like preceding the divine name. This is like an oracle, almost like one could say a prophecy of a peculiar sense. He says, Noum Adonai Yahweh, right? Wa Tihi Li. Thus saith, or the oracle of the sovereign Adonai Yahweh, or Yahweh, if you point it that way, right? He who be who he be, the sovereign, he who be who he be. Wa and Tihi, you speaking to she, and you being, right, li, for me, and you being mine, or as the translator says right here, saith the Lord God, the sovereign Jehovah, and thou becamest, right, and thou becamest mine. So just bringing out this word sound, so in a sense, it's almost like when talk about the marriage of the Lamb, within Revelation, that is based in spirit on much of the prophetic oracles like we have right here. But it's harvest season. It's harvest time in this season. Here, the day of harvest. Don Carlos, classic roots tune for the reason of the season.
Innocent clothes after people. Whoa, oh yeah. Whoa, Jah shall clean out the bad weeds, yeah, and separate them from the good, cause the day of harvest is near. Whoa, Jah shall clean out the bad weeds, yeah, and separate them from the good, cause the day of harvest is near. Woe be unto those that say they of Israel, and they are not. Woe be unto those that say they Jews, and they are not. Cause they shall be cast away, like the chaff that the wind driveth away, I say. Oh yeah, oh well, Jah shall clean out the bad weeds, yeah, and separate them from the good, cause the day of harvest is near. Whoa, Jah shall clean out the bad weeds, yes, and separate them from the good, cause the day of harvest is near. separate them from the good, cause the day of harvest is near. Whoa, 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 whoa. Oh, oh, Jah shall clean out the bad weeds, yeah, and separate them from the good, cause the day of harvest is near. Whoa, 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 well, whoa, oh. Woe be unto those that say they of Israel, and they are not. Woe be unto those that say they're Jews, and they are not. God shall tell them in his wisdom, they'll have their season, and they shall be cast away, I say, just like the chaff that the wind drifts away. Oh yeah, oh oh oh, oh well, oh yes, Jah shall clean out the bad weeds, yeah, and separate them from the good, cause the day of harvest is near. Whoa, 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 whoa. Oh, oh, Jah shall clean out the bad weeds, yeah, and separate them from the good, cause the day of harvest is near. Whoa, 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 whoa.
We're here on this eve right here, Shabbos time, upper room of Zion time, given the Holy Spirit, Ila Ira time. So here the evening psalm appointed here for this fifth day of Shabuah, and here for what will be the eve, traditionally speaking, the eve of the Shabuot, the harvest here in the season right here. Stay tuned for day 1, day 2, because that third day, the first day, yes, here.
Psalm 81.
מזמור פ"א למנצח על הגיתית לאסף, 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 לאסף.
Sing aloud unto God our strength, our strength.
עוזנו, 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 עוזנו. הרנינו לאלוהים עוזנו, 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 עוזנו.
Make a joyful noise unto the God of Jacob, God of Jacob, God of Jacob.
לאלוהי יעקב. הריעו לאלוהי יעקב.
Take a psalm and bring hither the timbrel, the pleasant harp with the psaltery. Blow up the trumpet in the new moon, in the time appointed on our solemn feast day. For this was a statute for Israel and a law of the God of Jacob. This he ordained in Joseph for a testimony when he went out through the land of Egypt, where I heard a language that I understood not. I removed his shoulder from the burden. His hands were delivered from the pots. Thou calledst in trouble, and I delivered thee. I answered thee in the secret place of thunder. I proved thee at the waters of Meribah. Selah. Hear, O my people, and I will testify unto thee. O Israel, if thou wilt hearken unto me. There shall no strange God be in thee, neither shalt thou worship any strange God. I am the Lord thy God, which brought thee out of the land of Egypt. Open thy mouth wide, and I will fill it. But my people would not hearken to my voice, and Israel would none of me. So I gave them up unto their own heart's lust, and they walked in their own counsels. Oh, that my people had hearkened unto me, and Israel had walked in my ways. I should soon have subdued their enemies, and turned my hand against their adversaries. The haters of the Lord should have submitted themselves unto him. Their time should have endured forever. He should have fed them also with the finest of the wheat. With honey out of the rock should I have satisfied, 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 satisfied.
מזמור פ"א למנצח על הגיבטית לאסף. הרנינו לאלוהים עוזנו, הריעו לאלוהי יעקב. שאו זמרה ותנו תוף, כינור נעים עם נבל. תקעו בחודש שופר, בכסה ליום חגנו. כי חוק לישראל הוא, משפט לאלוהי יעקב. עדות בהוסף שמו, בצאתו על ארץ מצרים, שפת לא ידעתי אשמע. הסירותי מצבל שכמו, כפיו מדוד תעבורנה. בצרה קראת ואכלתך, אענך בסתר רעם, אבחונך על מי מריבה סלע. שמע עמי ואעידה בך, ישראל אם תשמע לי, לא יהיה בך אל זר, ולא תשתחווה לאל נכר. אנוכי אדוני אלוהיך, המעלך מארץ מצרים, ארחב פיך ואמלאהו. ולא שמע עמי לקולי, וישראל לא אבה לי. ואשלחהו בשרירות ליבם, ילכו במועצותיהם. לו עמי שומע לי, ישראל בדרכי יהלכו, כמעט אויביהם אכניע, ועל צריהם אשיב ידי. משנאי אדוני יכחשו לו, ויהי עיתם לעולם. ויאכילהו מחלב חיטה, ומצור דבש אשביעך, 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 אשביעך.
Kadamawi.
To whom praise is due forever.
Don't get weary, no. the wilderness, yeah. Not Satire, don't stop you die in the wilderness, yeah. Not Satire. Milk and the honey flow. Tread trod on Israel. Tread trod on Israel. Tread trod on Israel. Tread trod on Israel. Me say the youth them need a home. I am pretending to be bad. Ghetto streets they roll and up my forefather. The wilderness is no place for us to rest on weary heads. Cannot satire. Sidewalk, cover the gold and the milk and the honey flow. Trod on Israel. Not satire. 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 We've not Israel. Trod on Israel. Trod on Israel. We've not Israel.
Trod on Israel. Weep not Israel. Yes, sir. In case you don't know what we
Are ye
mean.
not as children of the Ethiopians unto me? O children of Israel, O children of Israel.
Yes, I trod on Israel. Classic Steel Pulse, Nyabingi Voyage right there. Today's daily psalm also here, interesting in the season. We have Psalm 126 right here. It's another classic. I haven't played this in a while, but classic right here. Chant a psalm. Yes, I rise up to chant. Today's daily Psalm 126 coming forward after this. Sema Rastafari.
ሀገራችን ኢየሩሳሌም ደህና ሽመላ ሀገራችን ኢየሩሳሌም ደህና
And here today's daily Psalm 126. Going to write up the English here, and then we get into the Royal Amharic and hopefully touch on some of the Hebrew here, as well as the reasons for the season. Today's daily Psalm 126, Royal Order. Here.
Psalm 126. And the Lord turned again the captivity of Zion. We were like them that dream. Then was our mouth filled with laughter, and our tongue with singing. Then said they among the heathen, the Lord hath done great things. Psalm 126. And the Lord turned again the captivity of Zion. We were like them that dream. Then was our mouth filled with laughter, and our tongue with singing. Then said they among the heathen, the Lord hath done great things for them. The Lord hath done great things for us, whereof we are glad. Turn again our captivity, O Lord, as the streams in the south. They that sow in tears shall reap in joy. He that goeth forth and weepeth, bearing precious seed, shall doubtless come again with rejoicing, bringing his sheaves with sheaves. Psalm 126. And the Lord turned again the captivity of Zion. We were like them that dream. Then was our mouth filled with laughter, and our tongue with singing. Then said they among the heathen, the Lord hath done great things. Psalm 126. And the Lord turned again the captivity of Zion. We were like them that dream. Then was our mouth filled with laughter, and our tongue with singing. Then said they among the heathen, the Lord hath done great things for them. The Lord hath done great things for us, whereof we are glad. Turn again our captivity, O Lord, as the streams in the south. They that sow in tears shall reap in joy. He that goeth forth and weepeth, bearing precious seed, shall doubtless come again with rejoicing, bringing his sheaves with sheaves.
And here from His Majesty's Bible, the Book of the Seven Seals, Revelation 5:5, here in the Royal Amharic, before we go through verse by verse. Today's daily psalm, holding firm, dub wise. May the sweet album reach the
መዝሙር 125 በቅንፍ 126 የማዕረግ መዝሙር መዝሙር 125 በቅንፍ 126 የማዕረግ መዝሙር እግዚአብሔር የጽዮንን ምርኮ በመለሰ ጊዜ እጅግ ደስተኞች ሆነን በዚያን ጊዜ አፋችን ደስታን አንደበታችንም ሐሴትን ሞላ በዚያን ጊዜ በአሕዛብ ዘንድ እግዚአብሔር ታላቅ ነገርን አደረገላቸው ተባለ እግዚአብሔር ታላቅ ነገርን አደረገልን ደስም አለን። አቤቱ በደቡብ እንዳሉ ፈሳሾች ምርኳችንን መልስ። በለቅሶ የሚዘሩ በደስታ ይለቅማሉ። በሄዱ ጊዜ ዘራቸውን ተሸክመው እያለቀሱ ተሰማሩ። በተመለሱ ጊዜ ግን ነዶአቸውን ተሸክመው ደስ እያላቸው ይመጣሉ።
Psalm 126. And the Lord turned again the captivity of Zion, 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 captivity of Zion. We were like them that dream, 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 dream. Then was our mouth filled with laughter, and our tongue with singing. Then said they among the heathen, the Lord hath done great things, 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 great things. Psalm 126. And the Lord turned again the captivity of Zion. We were like them that dream. Then was our mouth filled with laughter, and our tongue with singing. Then said they among the heathen, the Lord hath done great things for them. The Lord hath done great things for us, whereof we are glad. Turn again our captivity, O Lord, as the streams in the south. They that sow in tears shall reap in joy. He that goeth forth and weepeth, bearing precious seed, shall doubtless come again with rejoicing, bringing his sheaves with sheaves, 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 with sheaves.
Yes, yes, yes. Holding firm. Today's daily Psalm 126, 126 Psalm, the Royal Amharic, so one can hear it more or less a cappella wise.
Bring forth the Bible. Bring forth the Bible.
Yes.
Bring forth the Bible.
Here, here,
Bring
here.
forth the Bible. Bring forth the Bible. Bring forth the
Sama,
Bible.
sama, samu, samu, samu. Hear this, hear this.
መዝሙር 125 በቅንፍ 126 የማዕረግ መዝሙር። እግዚአብሔር የጽዮንን ምርኮ በመለሰ ጊዜ እጅግ ደስተኞች ሆንን። በዚያን ጊዜ አፋችን ደስታን አንደበታችንም ሐሴትን ሞላ። በዚያን ጊዜ በአሕዛብ ዘንድ እግዚአብሔር ታላቅ ነገርን አደረገላቸው ተባለ። እግዚአብሔር ታላቅ ነገርን አደረገልን ደስም አለን። አቤቱ በደቡብ እንዳሉ ፈሳሾች ምርኳችንን መልስ። በለቅሶ የሚዘሩ በደስታ ይለቅማሉ። በሄዱ ጊዜ ዘራቸውን ተሸክመው እያለቀሱ ተሰማሩ። በተመለሱ ጊዜ ግን ነዶአቸውን ተሸክመው ደስ እያላቸው ይመጣሉ።
Amharic children there, Tatoche, my fingers, Tatoche. Zema, little chant right there, be as a child. So here, going through verse by verse, today's daily psalm. Burhana Selassie, what the mind say? Yeah, by them hearts.
Legashun, Agirashun, Memeles, Memelegashun, Zenigashme, Ethiopia Menage, you know. But we want the next verse with Amharic. But we want the next verse with Amharic.
Teach high and I am a teacher. Bring forth the Bible. 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 Bring forth the Bible.
Today's daily psalm, according to Royal Order, Psalm 126, 126 psalm, a chant of the returned exiles, the Falah Shem Hurricane. Yes, I. Here.
Salam to Tainayas Talim. Today's daily psalm, according to the Royal Order of the Ethiopian Hebrews, and hereafter the order of Melchizedek. Garmawi Kanamawi Chada Selassie Hag Adosh Baruch Hashem. We have Mezmor Meto Haya Sidist, Psalm 126. As we had mentioned in the Hebrew and the Sefer Tehillim Groundation, today's daily psalm often themed as a disappointed hope, but yet it is a psalm concerning repatriation. It's a psalm concerning the return from Babylon and the captivity, the turning. How John has turned the turning of Sion, today's daily psalm right here. So we have the theme of a disappointed hope. Now, it's interesting, and I heal up I and I fellows, Brother Yasin is reasoning on that, and even looking at, where the once lost now found are right here in tune with the history concerning even the Shashamani land grant, and, these things and those things. But here, today's daily psalm is a thanksgiving for return from captivity. So we're going to write up the Royal Amharic and compare and contrast right here with the KJV English. So from the Authorized, Revised Amharic Bible, the Book of the Seven Seals of Garmawi, Kanamawi, Haile Selassie, the conquering line of the tribe of Judah, the root of David. Weep not, behold. So here we have Yesedet te Melashoch Mezmor. Yesedet te Melashoch, those the return of the captivity. So here was Mother Falasha, even we of this north country, the once lost now found, the black and brown sheep of the Beta Yisrael. Right? A psalm, a chant, an intonation here. Thanksgiving for return from captivity. And here in the beginning of this 400 year, 2019, it's just very interesting just to note that for the record. But then there's also the sense in today's daily psalm of a disappointed hope, a feeling of disillusionment that underlies what some regard as a pathetic psalm, in that sense, a psalm of some suffering. I and I the sufferer, I and I the wailer. The glorious expectations aroused, historically speaking, for we the black Jews by the edict of Koresh or Cyrus are compared to and with the meagerness of what had so far been achieved. We look at Shashamani. We look at where we're at now and from then and what has gone on, the ups and downs, the follies, the underground. And the comparison, it inspires a petition, an abetuta, a petition, a sha'al in the Hebrew. A petition is an ask. It inspires an ask, a petition that the immediate future would be blessed with prosperity. So here we have in today's daily psalm, Mezmor Meto Haya Sidist, the Mezmor Dawit, in the Psalms of David, the Psalter, in the salsa, today's daily psalm. So the superscription first, Ye Ma'arig Mezmor, song of degrees, a song of ascents. And just to make a note right here for the fellow Chabarim, me, my people, my brothers, the Talmudim, the Dekam Amorit, fellow disciples, we have from Psalm 120 to Psalm 134, the Aliyah. The Aliyah in the Hebrew, right, is the Ma'arig, the ascension. So here we have an ascension psalm, Ye Ma'arig Mezmor. So here, Psalm 126 is also a song of ascension, of going up, of the pilgrimage psalm, also the returning to the land. So going to the land, the promised land, is even that aliyah, that going up, right? Ma'arig. So we have Ye Ma'arig Mezmor, a song of degrees, a song of ascents. So make I and I begin. B'Shem Ab, Wawelid, Wamentes Kedus, Ahadu, Amlak, and Jamral. In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, the one source, we begin. Kuter and. Egziari her yesionin merko b'melesegize ijig destenyo chohonin. When the Lord Egziari her, the sustainer, the good, the generous Ab, Father, turned again the captivity of Zion, we were like them that dream. Egziari her yesionin merko b'melesegize ijig destenyo chohonin. Kuter Hulet, verse 2. Bezian gize afachin desetan. Bezian gize afachin desetan. And betach nema hasetina mola. Bezian gize ba'azav zenek giziavia talak negarina de regalacho tabale. Then was our mouth filled with laughter, Bezian Gize, Afachin, Destan. Then was our mouth filled with happiness, and our tongue with singing under Betachnim Hasetin Mola. Hasetin Mola. Then said they among the heathen, among the nations, Bezian Gize, Ba'ahzab Zen, Ba'ahzab, among the different Hizboch peoples. Then they said, Egziavi her Talak Negarina da Regalacho, Tabale. Then they said to Vale, Egziavi her Talak Negarina da Regalacho, that the sustainer, the good, the generous, Father, have done great things for them. Kuter source, verse 3. Egziavi her Talak Negarina da Reglin, Desimale. Egziavi her, the Lord, the sustainer, the good, the generous, Father, Egziavi her, have done great things for us, for I and I. Egziavi her Talak Negarina da Reglin, whereof we are glad. Desimalen. We are happy, glad. Kuter Arat, verse 4. Avetu. Bedebu bandalu afesashoch merkoach ninamelis. Turn again our captivity, O Lord. Avetu, thy father's father, O Father of the Beit, the house. Bedebu bandalu fesashoch merkoach ninamelis. As the streams in the south, Bedebub and Dalu Fasashoch, Merkoachnin Melis, Uter Amis, verse 5. Belikso Yemizaru Abedeseta Yilekmal. They that sow in tears, Belikso Yemizaru, shall reap in joy. Bedeseta Yilekmalu. Kuter Sidis, verse 6. Behedugize, Zarachowina, Teshakumoa, Ialekasua, Tesamaru. Betemelesugize gina, Nedoachowina, Teshakmo, Desialacho, Yimetalu. He that goeth forth and weepeth, he that goeth forth and weepeth, behedu gize, in their goings, aracha winter shakmo yalekasu tesamaru, bearing precious seed, shall doubtless come again, betemelesu gize gin, with rejoicing, bringing his sheaves with him. Nedoacha winter shakmo. Desialacho yimetal.
መዝሙር 125 በቅንፍ 126 የማዕረግ መዝሙር መዝሙር 125 በቅንፍ 126 የማዕረግ መዝሙር እግዚአብሔር የጽዮንን ምርኮ በመለሰ ጊዜ እጅግ ደስተኞች ሆነን በዚያን ጊዜ አፋችን ደስታን አንደበታችንም ሐሴትን ሞላ በዚያን ጊዜ በአሕዛብ ዘንድ እግዚአብሔር ታላቅ ነገርን አደረገላቸው ተባለ እግዚአብሔር ታላቅ ነገርን አደረገልን ደስም አለን አቤቱ በደቡብ እንዳሉ ፈሳሾች ምርኳችንን መልስ በለቅሶ የሚዘሩ በደስታ ይለቅማሉ በሄዱ ጊዜ ዘራቸውን ተሸክመው እያለቀሱ ተሰማሩ በተመለሱ ጊዜ ግን ነዶአቸውን ተሸክመው ደስ እያላቸው ይመጣሉ
Psalm 126. And the Lord turned again the captivity of Zion, 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 captivity of Zion. We were like them that dream, 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 dream. Then was our mouth filled with laughter, and our tongue with singing. Then said they among the heathen, the Lord hath done great things, great things, great things, great things, great things, great things. Psalm 126. When the Lord turned again the captivity of Zion, we were like them that dream. Then was our mouth filled with laughter, and our tongue with singing. Then said they among the heathen, the Lord hath done great things for them. The Lord hath done great things for us, whereof we are glad. Turn again our captivity, O Lord, as the streams in the south. They that sow in tears shall reap in joy. He that goeth forth and weepeth, bearing precious seed, shall doubtless come again with rejoicing, bringing his sheaves with sheaves, 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 with sheaves.
Rastafari, Abagada, Hawaza, Taya, Kala, Mana, Sai, Patala, Warashata, ha.
Mizmor Kof Kaf Wow. Mizmor Kof Kaf Wow. Shir המעלות. ושוב יהוה את שיבת ציון. היינו כחולמים, אז ימלא שחוק פינו, ולשוננו רינו, אז יאמרו הבגויים, הגדיל יהוה לעשות עם אלה, הגדיל יהוה לעשות עמן. היינו שמחים, שובה יהוה את שבותנו, כאפקים בנגב, הזורעים בדמעה, ורינה יקצורו, הלא כילק, ובקו נושא משק הזרע, בוא יבוא, ורינה נושא אל מותי.
Psalm 126. When the Lord turned again the captivity of Zion, 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 captivity of Zion. We were like them that dream, 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 dream. Then was our mouth filled with laughter, and our tongue with singing. Then said they among the heathen, the Lord hath done great things, 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 great things. Psalm 126. When the Lord turned again the captivity of Zion, we were like them that dream. Then was our mouth filled with laughter, and our tongue with singing. Then said they among the heathen, the Lord hath done great things for them. The Lord hath done great things for us, whereof we are glad. Turn again our captivity, O Lord, as the streams in the south. They that sow in tears shall reap in joy. He that goeth forth and weepeth, bearing precious seed, shall doubtless come again with rejoicing, bringing his sheaves with sheaves, 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 with sheaves.
מזמור קכ"ו שיר המעלות. ושוב אדוני את שיבת ציון, היינו כחולמים. אז ימלא שחוק פינו ולשוננו רינה. אז יאמרו בגויים, הגדיל אדוני לעשות עם אלה. הגדיל אדוני לעשות עמנו, היינו שמחים. שובה אדוני את שביתנו, כאפיקים בנגב. אז זורעים בדמעה, ורינה יקצורו. הלוך ילך ובכו, נושא משך הזרע, בוא יבוא ורינה, נושא אלומותה, 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 אלומותה.
Rastafari, Abagada, Hawazacha, Taya, Kaya, Manasai, Patala, Warashata.
Evil boy, everything takes time.
מזמור קוף כף וואו, מזמור קוף כף וו, מזמור קוף כף וואו. Psalm 126, Psalm CXXVI, מזמור קוף כף וואו. שיר המעלות. בשוב יהוה את שיבת ציון, היינו כחולמים. Shir Hama'elot, Shir Hama'alot, a song of ascent, a song of degrees. Shir, a song, Hama'elot, of goings up, Hama'alot, Shir Hama'alot, Beshuv Yahuwah, Eta Shibata Tzion, when Yahuwah, he who be, when Jehovah brought back those that returned to Zion, Beshuv Yahuwah, Eta Shibat Tzion. Hayinu, we became Hayinu, K'cholmim, we became like dreamers, we became like to them that dream. Hayinu, K'cholmim, B'shuv Yehovah, Eta Shibata Tzion, Hayinu, K'cholmim. Az imale sechok apinu uleshonenu rina. Az yomru bagoyim hikadil Yehovah laesota
im'ele. Then was our mouth filled with laughter, and our tongue with singing. Then said they among the nations, Yahweh, Jehovah have done great things with these. Az yimale, sehokapinu, as then, yimale, being filled, sehok, laughter, pinu, our mouth, as yimale, sehok apinu, ulishonenu rina, and our tongue, ulishonenu rina, with singing, ulishonenu rina, as yomru bagoyim, then as said they, yomru, among the nations bagoyim, among the Gentiles, the nations and nationalities, as yomru bagoyim, hikadili Yahuwah la'esot ayim ele. Jehovah have done great things with these. Higadil, great. Yehovah, he who be, la is sought to do, la is sought, in with ele, with these, in ele, Higadil, Yehovah, la is sought, in ele. Higadila Yahuwah la isot imanu. Hayinu simachim. Yahuwah, Jehovah have done great things with us. We are rejoiced. Higadili Yahuwah la isot imanu. Higadil great. Yahuwah, he who be, we be. La isot to do imanu with us. Hikadili Yahuwah la isota imanu. Hayinu, we becoming. Hayinu simachim. Joyful ones, rejoices. Simachim. Shubah Yahuwah eta shibutenu. Ka efikim ba negev. Turn our captivity, O Yahweh, O Jehovah, as the streams in the dry land, as the streams in the Negev in the south. Shubah, turn, Yehovah, Yehovah, turn, O Jehovah, et shibutenu, turn our turning, turn, restore our fortunes, to say, turn our captivity. That is the katib, what is written, et shibutenu, turn our captive ones, turn our captivity. The katib and the kare, shubah, Yahuwah, et shibutenu. Shubah, Yahuwah, et shibitenu. Ka ifikim, ka as ifikim, the streams, banegeb, in the Negev, in the south. Ha zoraima bi'dima'ah, bi'rina yikazor. They that sow in tears shall reap in joy. Ha zoraim, the sowers, ha zoraim, the sowers, bi'dima'ah, in tears. Ha zorim bedima, be'rina yikasoru, be'rina in joy, in singing, in joy, rejoicing tones, be'rina yikasoru, they shall reap. Haloka yeleka ua bako nose mesheka ha zara, bo yabo, be'rina noseya elmutayo, though he goeth on his way weeping, that beareth the measure of seed, he shall come home with joy, bearing his sheaves. Halok yelek, going, his going, halok yelek, his going, in that sense, haloka yeleka u bako, and weeping, no say, carrying, bearing, mesheka ha zara, the measure of seed. Meshek hazara. Mesheka hazara. Bo yabo. The first part, halok yelek. trotting his trod, halok yelek, though he goeth on his way, halok yelek, going, his going, in that sense of trotting his trod, halok yelek, bako, and weeping, no say, lifting, bearing, no say, meshek hazara, the measure of seed, bo yabo, the sense of go, his going, in the sense of he shall come home, go, his going, be'rina, with joy and singing, ringing, singing tones, no say, bearing, carrying, lifting up, no say, bearing, elumotayo, bearing his sheaves, Mizmor Kof Kaf Waw, Shir Hama'elot, Beshuv Yahuwah Eta Shibata Tzion, Hayinu Kecholmi, Az Yimale Sehok Apinu, Leshonenu Rina, Az Yomru Bagoyim, Hikadili Yahuwah La Esota Im Ele, Hikadili Yahuwah La Esot Imanu, Hayinu Asemachim, Shuba Yahuwah Eta Shibutenu, Shuba Yahuwah Eta Shibitenu, Kalfikima Banegev, Hazoraima Bedima, Berina Yikasoru, Haloka Yeleko Bako, no se Mesheka Hazara, Boya Boa Berina, no se Elumutayo.
מזמור קכ"ו שיר המעלות. ושוב אדוני את שיבת ציון היינו כחולמים. אז ימלא שחוק פינו ולשוננו רינה. אז יאמרו בגויים הגדיל אדוני לעשות עם אלה. הגדיל אדוני לעשות עמנו היינו שמחים. שובה אדוני את שביתנו כאפיקים בנגב, הזורעים בדמעה ברינה יקצורו, הלוך ילך ובכו נושא משך הזרע, בו יבוא ורינה נושא אלומותיו.
שיר המעלות, ושוב אדוני שיבת ציון, היינו כחולמים, אז ימלא שחופינו שוננו רינה, אז יאמרו בגויים הגדיל אדוני לעשות עם אלה, הגדיל אדוני לעשות עמנו, היינו שמחים, שובה אדוני את שביתנו, כאפיקים בנגב, הזורעים בדמעה, ברינה יקצורו, הלוך ילך ובכו נושא משך הזרע, בו יבוא ברינה נושא אלומותיו.
Psalm 126. And the Lord turned again the captivity of Zion, We were like them that dream. Then was our mouth filled with laughter, and our tongue with singing. Then said they among the heathen, the Lord hath done great things. Psalm 126. And the Lord turned again the captivity of Zion. We were like them that dream. Then was our mouth filled with laughter, and our tongue with singing. Then said they among the heathen, the Lord hath done great things for them. The Lord hath done great things for us, whereof we are glad. Turn again our captivity, O Lord, as the streams in the south. They that sow in tears shall reap in joy. He that goeth forth and weepeth, bearing precious seed, shall doubtless come again with rejoicing, bringing his sheaves with sheaves. whom shall he teach knowledge? And whom shall he make to understand doctrine? Them that are weaned from the milk and drawn from the breasts. For precept must be upon precept, precept upon precept, line upon line, line upon line, here a little and there a little. For with stammering lips and another tongue will he speak to this people.
Rastafari, Abagada, Taya, Kaya, Mana, Saifa, Tada, Warashata.
Shalom, Chabarim. So here a few highlights of today's psalm. Mizmor Kof Kaf Wow. Psalm 126. Psalm CXXVI. So we have the opening. It's a song of degrees, a song of ascents, or a song of goings up. It's a shir song, Mizmor is a chant, an intonation, a chant. We say eyes is here. We have a song, shir hama'illot, ha the ma'illot, or ma'alot, as some would say, pointed as hama'illot, that ma'alot, the aliyah, the going up. So this is a song of degrees, and here we have the overview. Today's psalm recalls and recalling the joy of past deliverance, and Ha'el's, the true good, the true God's, Jah's covenant community asking for a fresh display of Jah's power, and confidently, Godfidently, so to speak, anticipating their and I sorrow, the sorrow being transformed into joy. So today's psalm, Mizmor Kof Kaf Wow, recalls the joy of past deliverance. And here, Jah's covenant, the covenant community, is asking for a fresh display of Jah's power, and confidently, Godfidently anticipating that their and I sorrow be transformed and is being transformed into joy. Overview of today's psalm. Now, some theme today's psalm is more Kof Kaf Wow, or some will say Kof Kaf Vav. Psalm 126, Mizmor Kof Kaf Wow, as a disappointed hope, a feeling of disillusionment. Some say underlies this pathetic psalm. Some say so. It's there's a pathos, there's suffering, there's sorrow, the pathology of today's psalm, Mizmor Kof Kaf Wow. The glorious expectations aroused by the verdict of Koresh Hebraically is Cyrus, are compared with the meagerness of what had so far been reached. Now, the historical point of view of Cyrus and Darius and Koresh and Cyrus. Cyrus is the one who gave the Yehudi, the Jews, the black Jews of Persia, the right to that community, the right to return after the 70 years of the southern kingdom, Yehuda, right, the last of the Jedi, the Judahites, as Yisrael, the northern 10 tribes, were taken into captivity by Assyria. Then later on, we have the southern kingdom, the Judahite, the Yehudi kingdom, going into captivity in Babylon. And after 70 years, Koresh, Cyrus, he grants an edict of a right of return, the right of return. So we get the Ezra, the time period of Ezra in the scriptures, Ezra and Nehemiah, Ezra and Nehemiah. So this is what this psalm here speaks to as well. And the comparison inspires here a petition that the immediate future would be blessed with prosperity. So getting a context, right? So we'll know what the Isis, the chant, is for. Mizmor Kof Kaf Wow, Psalm 126, Psalm CXXVI, Song of Ascents. It's a shir hama'illot, song of the goings up, hama'illot, of the aliyahs, as ma'alot is a plural word, the goings up, speaking of the pilgrim festival, but also speaking of the aliyah, the returning out of exile. The aliyah is also the returning out of exile and the going up to the promised land, to the holy land. So shir hama'illot. So here, let's touch on the first verse right here, the Aleph verse. In the Hebrew, the title, a song of degrees, a song of ascents, is part of the Aleph, the first verse. Now in the KJV it reads, when the Lord turned again the captivity of Zion, we were like them that dream.
So here, the first verse in the KJV, King James Wise, a song of degrees, when the Lord turned again the captivity of Zion, we were like them that dream. The Ivrayist in the Hebrew, the Brit, we have B'shuv Yehovah et Shibat Zion, Hayinu K'cholmim. So here, Hebraically translated, when he who be, Yehovah, brought back those that returned to Zion. B'shuv Yehovah et Shivat Zion. Et Shivat. Shivat, some would enunciate it as Shavat. Shavat. B'shuv Adonai et Shavat Zion. In the modern Hebrew, but here, Masoretically, according to the scripts, B'shuv Yehovah et Shivat Zion. B'shuv. B'shuv. In returning, he who be, et Shivat, the captivity. Here we have Shivat brought out in the KJV as captivity. Hebraically, when he who be, HaKadosh, Baruch Hu, the Holy One, blessed be he, Baruch Hashem, blessed be the name, brought back, returned, B'shuv Yehovah, those that returned, et Shivat Zion, those that return to Zion. So here from this one opening verse, the first part of the verse, we have two translations. The KJV says, when Yahweh Jehovah turned again the captivity of Zion. Here we have when Jehovah brought back those that returned to Zion. So now the precise significance of the title is important. The title is a song of degrees, a song of ascents, a song of the goings up. Shir HaMa'ilot. HaMa'ilot. The Ma'ilot. Shir HaMa'ilot. This appears in Psalms 120 to Psalm 134. So these are the Ascension Psalms, the Pilgrim Psalms. Some say the significance of the title is unclear to them, but it's clear to us as we study this from the HD, the Hebrew definition, the context of we, the black Jews of the Lion of the tribe of Judah. It's clear that these are the Psalms. These Psalms right here are the Psalms that are recited when the worshippers, the pilgrims, ascend the road to Yerushalayim. The road to Yerushalayim, the road to Sion, the road to Zion, to celebrate the annual religious, sacred feasts and festivals, the Mo'adei Yahweh, the feasts, the festivals, the appointments, the Shalosh Regalim, the three Regalim, the three pilgrim festivals, as it says in HaTorah, 3 times in the year shall all the males appear in the place, the Makom HaMakom, the spot, the place where Yahuwah, where he who be, HaKadosh, Baruch Hu, Baruch Hashem, has placed his name, appointed for his name, has set his name. And that place being Yerushalayim, Jerusalem, that place being Sion. Now the connection of Zion and Jerusalem is particularly interesting, not to get into it right here, but we have the pilgrims here on the road to Zion. First stop, Sion. First stop is Zion, and then continuing to ascend to Yerushalayim, to Jerusalem. Right? So we have to look at a map so we can get the topical view of things. First, the road to Sion, first stop, Sion, Zion. Then continuing the ascend, continuing the Ma'ilot, the Aliyah, the going up to Yerushalayim. So the title, firstly, foremostly, the Shir HaMa'ilot. Ma'ilot. Song of degrees, song of ascents, song of the goings up. Now, with the first part of the verse, so we have the title, we have the first part of the verse, and the second part. The first part, when he who be turned again, B'shuv, turned again, or when he who be brought back, returned, B'shuv, Yehovah, B'shuv, Yehovah, B'shubi, Yehovah, et Shivat Sion, or some would say et Shivat Sion. Turned again the captivity. So here we have the H7870 word, Sheba, the Sheba. What is the Sheba? Sheba, right, at the root of Shabbat, the Sheba is a return, captivity. a return, literally in the Hebrew, it's a return. A shiva, a return, a turn, because a turn again, the sense of turning again. If you return something, you turn it again. If you like to return it, to turn it again, right? But in the context here, bringing out the sense of the captivity, et Shabbat Sion, or when he who be, turned again, those that turned again to Sion. So the rendering that we have here in the RV, the Revised Version margin, is often a paraphrase rather than a translation. Within like the KJV, many times you get a paraphrase, right? The phrase in a varied form is common in the scriptures, is common in the Bible, and is best explained as, quote, turned the turning of Zion. When he who be, turned the turning of Zion. Bishubi Yehovah et Shabbat Sion. Shub, bishub, in turning, turned, returning, turning. Bishub Yehovah et Shabbat Sion. When he who be turned the turning of Sion, turned the turning of Zion, made a change in her circumstances, Say her, speaking of Sion, speaking of Zion, and even by extension, speaking of her, speaking of Yerushalayim, speaking of she, speaking of her, the soul of Yahuwah, of Jehovah's soul people, the soul being she as well. When he who be made a change, Bishub Yahuwah, a change in her circumstances, et Shabbat Sion, restored her, some will say restored her fortune, restored her baraka, restored her blessedness, her set apartness, that sense of the sorrow, right? The sorrow, the apparent sorrow being turned into joy. Hebraically speaking, turns with a turning toward his people. Turns, when he who be turns with a turning. Bishub, you have Bishub at the root of Shabbat. Bishub Yehovah et Shabbat Sion. When he who be turns with a turning, Sion, his people. Now the Hebrew noun Shabbat or Shavat, modern Hebrew Shivat, ancient pointing Shibat. It occurs, interestingly enough, only here in the Brit Yeshana, in the Old Testament, the Brit Yeshana in the Hebrew Old Testament scriptures. Only here do we have Shavat, Shibat. For this reason, many translators and expositors on the scripts, they prefer to amend the form, right? They prefer to amending the form, like in some sense, repointing, amending the form to the more common Shavit. The more common Shavit or Shabit, ancient pointing Shabit, or to Shabut, modern pointing Shavut. So we have Shabit and Shabut for the Shibat. So now when you're looking at the Hebrew, what we see is in the written form we have the Sheen, Yod, Beit, and Tau. The Sheen, Yod, Beit, and Tau. In the amended form, to the more common form, we have the Sheen, Beit, Yod, and Tau. The Sheen, Beit, Yod, and Tau. And then in the Shabut sense, we have the Sheen, Beit, Wow, and Tau. Right? If you look at the Hebrew, the Yod is like a shorter Wow. The Wow, the W, we could say the W sonant, right? The W glyph, right? Hebraically in the Asherit, and later we could say the Masoretic, later Square Hebrew. When we look at the two letters, we see a remarkable similarity. The Wow appears as a longer form, a lengthened form of the Yod. But here in the Shibat that we have in the text and the more common forms, what we see is a change of order. So in the scripts, we have the Yod before the Beit, right? In this scripture here, because remember this word, Shavat, Shabbat, Shibat appears only here. The more common form in the scripture is either the Shabit or the Shabut. Now, in the Shabit sense, that's close to the Shibat. What we have is the Beit before the Yod in Shibit and the Yod before the Beit in Shibat. Now, both of these, the Shabit and the Shabut, are used as a cognate accusative of the Shub. Shub, Shub, Shub. Now, what do we have in the Shub? Well, we have a point of reference right here. Point of reference, we have this in Psalm 14. Recall Psalm 14, verse 7, KJVY. It says, Oh, that the salvation of Israel were come out of Zion. Now, the words were come are italicized, so not being there, the more force of the reading. Oh, that the salvation of Israel out of Zion, when Yahuwah, Jehovah, bringeth back, Shub, the sense of Shub, bringeth back the captivity. Bringeth back the what? The captivity, the Shabut, or the Shabit, which is the exile. Shabut, the exile, Shabit, exile, the prisoners, right? Brings back the Shabut, the Shabit of his people. Then the final part of the verse in Psalm 14 and 7, Jacob, Yaakov, shall rejoice, and Yisrael and Israel shall be glad. Mi yitain, mi tzion, Yeshuat Yisrael. Who will give from Zion, literally in the Hebrew, mi, who, yitain, who is he that will give? Mi yitain, mi tzion, from Zion, Zion, Yeshuat, the Yasha'ah, the salvation, the victory, Yeshuat, Yisrael, the victory, the salvation of Yisrael, of Israel, the Sar of El, Bishub. So here we have it again, this phrase, Bishub, right? In returning, Bishub, Yehovah, Shabut, Amo, Bishub, Yehovah, Shabut, Amo. Bishubi, Yehovah, Shabut, Amo. Now, the English, the translation says right here, when Bishub, Yehovah, when Jehovah bringeth back, when he turns, Shabut, the captivity, Amo, the captivity of his people, Yagel, Yaakov, Yismach, Yisrael. Jacob, Yagel, Yaakov, Jacob shall be glad. Yismach, Yisrael, and Israel, right? Jacob shall be glad. Well, in the sense of Yagel, the Gili is more like to rejoice in that sense. It's almost like to spin from Gil, to spin around, under the influence of a strong emotion. Yagel, Yaakov. Jacob shall rejoice, Yismach, and glad, Yismach, Yisrael. And Israel shall samach, Yismach, shall brighten up, lively up, brighten up, shall shine, shall have bliss, gleesome, shall cheer up. Israel. Jacob shall rejoice, Yagel, Yaakov. And Yisrael and Israel shall be glad. But where we're zooming in right here, let's just zoom in right here. What we're zooming in on is when Jehovah bringeth back or returneth the captivity, and turning the captivity of his people. When he who he be, Bishubi, Yahuwah, Shabut, Ammo, Shabut, the captivity, Ammo, the captivity of his people. Now, however, we have the Aramaic cognate in the Aramaic. So in looking at the Hebrew, looking more at the Western Shemitic, and now looking at the Eastern Shemitic or the Aramaic cognate of Shabit, it appears in the 8th century BC, right? 8th century BC, old Aramaic inscription with the verb shub, So the cognate noun appears to mean, when we study this, return. So we have the sense of brought back, when he brings us back, the sense of return. And the best of the bringing out into English is when he who be, returned, the turning of Zion, the returning. When he returns, the returning of Zion. When he turns, the turning of Zion. Bishub Yehovah Eta Shabbat Zion. Therefore, the sense here is the sense of restoration. Therefore, it appears that Shabbat, some say, should be retained and understood as a cognate accusative of shub, turn with a turning towards, a sense of turn with a turning towards. Shibat, right? We have Shabbat, Shibat, right? And taking Shabbat as a constructive. Therefore, it understands, by taking it as a constructive means that in the order of words, we have Bishub, Yehovah, Bishub, in bringing back and turning, he who be, et, which is the direct object marker, et. What does he turn? What is he returning? Et Shibat, whether brought out as captivity or the returning of. So the constructive sense is Shibat is connected, the turning of or the turning towards Sion. Eta Shabbat Sion. So the constructive, understanding it as a constructive, Shabbat, right? Shabbat or Shibat here, connected with Sion there. So not just returning to, but connected with the turning of Zion, the returning of Sion, the returning of Zion. Now, the second part of the opening verse, just to get a groundation here, is Hayinu, Ke Cholmim. Hayinu, Haya, to be. Haya is he who be revealed his name to Moshe. Ehyeh, Asher, Ehyeh. Some say Haya, right, to be. Here we have Hayinu, Haya, Anu, we, Hayinu. We became, we becoming, Hayinu, Ke, like Cholmim. So Cholmim, from Cholem, right? Cholem means to dream, right? So the Cholmim are dreamers, right? Hayinu Ke Cholmim. Thus, the translation, we were like them that what? Well, this KJV brings out, we were like them that dream. Hayinu, we were like, we became. See, to emphasize the sense of not just we were, but we becoming. We be Ke like Cholmim. We be like dreamers. We were like dreamers. So what is this sense of we became like dreamers. We be like dreamers. We be dreamers, right? This could mean that the speakers were so overcome with ecstatic joy, right? And we see this connection even with the third verse. Yahuwah have done great things with us, with I and I. We are rejoice. Higadil Yehovah la esota imanu hayinu simachim. Again, the hayinu, we become, we be simachim. We be rejoices. We be rejoices, or we be glad. We be glad ones. We be as glad ones. Hayinu simachim. Simachim, hayinu simachim, or simachim. Hayinu simachim. We become samach, glad, happy. So the connection here, being like dreamers, this could mean that the speakers, that I and I are so overcome with ecstatic joy that they and we were like those who fantasizing about pleasurable experiences in our sleep. Oh, you're dreaming. Repatriation, going to return, come out of Babylon. Oh, you're fantasizing about something that's obviously very pleasurable to experience it in your dream. You're dreaming in their sleep. And here we have a connection with Yeshayahu, right? Isaiah, Isaiah 29, chapter 29, verses 7 and 8. It will be like a dream, a night vision. There will be a horde from all the nations that fight against Ariel, those who attack her and her stronghold and besiege her. It will be like a hungry man dreaming that he is eating, only to awaken and to find that his stomach is empty. It will be like a thirsty man dreaming that he is drinking, only to awaken and to find that he is still weak and his thirst unquenched. So it will be for the horde of all the nations, all the Goyim, all the Gentiles that fight against Har Sion, against Mount Zion. So we have that sense of the dream in their sleep. Since dreams are more commonly associated with the Brit Hashanah, with the Old Testament, right, with prophetic, right? In the Old Testament, we have the Brit Hashanah. In the scriptures, the Hebrew scriptures, we have dreams are associated with prophetic visions. Dreams are associated with prophetic visions. And also, if we look at the season, right, in which season does this psalm, according to the royal order of the Ethiopian Hebrews, come up? Especially if it's in the season, right? In a certain season, we have that time of dreams, right? Even within Bereshit and the Genesis readings, especially after the Sukkot, right? When we begin the Torah sabbatical studies again for those 5 or 6 months before Pesach, right? The darker times, the winter moons, the more night, less light times are also associated with dreams, but the dreams are associated with prophetic visions. So the community, Jah people, Jah community, may be comparing their and Aina experience of Jah's renewed favor to a prophet receiving the divine visions. Just as a prophetic dream sweeps the individual into a different dimension. Ever have a dream, even just a regular dream, and it's like you're in a different dimension, right? But here, just as a prophetic dream, the dreams of the prophet, the visions and the dreams of the prophet, this sweeps the individual, the indivisible dual, into a different dimension. And also, sometimes it brings ones face to face, panim el panim, face to face with Elohim Atzmo, with Elohim, Ha-Elohim, the true good, the true God himself. We have this in Bereshit, in Genesis chapter 28, verses 11 to 15, where Yaakov, right, the experience that we have there, right, we had that dream and that vision. Then also in 1 Kings chapter 3, verses 5 to 15, where Yahweh Jehovah appeared to Shlomo, to Solomon, Becholem, in a dream, right? So, too, Jah people, Jah's common unity, community, I being aware of he who be, of Jehovah's presence in a special way. In the day of Zion's restoration, in that day of Zion's restoration. So through, though the MT, the Masoretic text, as it stands, the Masoretic text, the Hebrew text, the Masoretic text, even here in the Sefer Tehillim, as it stands, it makes good sense. Some choose, right, looking at the Hebrew, some choose to understand, to come to understanding of what's called in the linguistic etymology academics, they call it a homonymic root, right? This similar name root, homonymic root here, meaning to be healthy, to be strong, right? So looking at hayinu ke cholmim, which is usually translated as we be like dreamers, or we were like them that dream. We became as those who dream. Hayinu ke cholmim. Others looking at the same Hebrew glyphs, right, bring out the sense of the homonymic root here, meaning to be healthy, to be strong, thus deriving it not from the cholam sense, but the chalam. Chalam. What is the chalam? Chalam sense, the chalam sense. And thus translate this to, we were like those restored to health. Hayinu ke chalamim, hayinu ke chalamim. So instead of we be like those that dream, we became like those that were restored to health, right? Even to our sanity, because of the restoration of Sion. This reading appears to have support of many of the ancient translations as well, right? So just to share a couple of words right here, just on the opening verse, because as we look at the Hebrew, many things that Sirach puts it very well. Right? That which is uttered in Hebrew and translated into another language doesn't always have the same force in them, or to bring out the force of the Hebrew. So it is both true hayinu ke cholmim, but it's also true hayinu ke chalamim. We become like those that dream,
right? So say to those who don't experience the same sight, seeing, and vision, but in actuality, hayinu ka chalamim, chalam, we become like strong ones, we become healthy, we become like those restored. With the restoration of Sion, I and I are restored to health. Mind, health, in spirit, in soul, and in body. So here, opening verse, a little build and midrash and study here on Mizmor Kof Kaf Wow, the Aleph, the first verse, Shir HaMa'ilot, Beshuv Yahovah Eta Shebata Tzion, Hayinu Ka Cholmim, Hayinu Ka Chalamim.
From every state and every city, we will be able to speed up that day when all of God's children, black men and white men, Jews and Gentiles, Protestants and Catholics, will be able to join hands and sing in the words of the old Negro spiritual, free at last, free at last, thank God Almighty, we are free at last. I have a dream. I have a dream. I have a dream. I have a dream.
His foundation is in the whole of mountain. Jah loveth the gates of Zion more than all the dwellings of Jacob. Glorious things have been spoken of the O city of God. I'll make mention to Rahab and Babylon to them that know I. With the old Philistine Tyre, with Ethiopia, it shall be said that this man was born there. And the highest himself shall establish the earth. Jah Rastafari.
Build our dreams together. Okay. Build our dreams. Let's build our dreams together. Let's make a life. Let's build our dreams together. Let's make our life much better. We've been together for so many years. While we need each other in sorrow and in tears. I'm only human, and can't you understand? All I need is your sweet guiding hand. Let's build our dreams together. Let's make a life much better. Let's build our dreams together. Let's make a life much better.
His foundation is in the whole of mountain. Jah loveth the gates of Zion more than all the dwellings of Jacob. Glorious things have been spoken of the O city of God. I'll make mention to Rahab and Babylon to them that know I. With the old Philistine Tyre, with Ethiopia, it shall be said that this man was born there. And the highest himself shall establish the earth. Jah Rastafari.
Kadamawi.
To whom praise is due forever.
מזמור קכ"ו שיר המעלות. בשוב אדוני את שיבת ציון היינו כחולמים. אז ימלא שחוק פינו ולשוננו רינה. אז יאמרו בגויים הגדיל אדוני לעשות עם אלה. הגדיל אדוני לעשות עמנו היינו שמחים. שובה אדוני את שביתנו כאפיקים בנגב. הזורעים בדמעה ברינה יקצורו. הלוך ילכו בכו נושא משך הזרע. בו יבוא ורינה נושא אלומותיו.
Evil boy, everything takes time.
Here.
Basic Hebrew, here, baby Hebrew, Shema Yisrael, 1 to 22. Abba Gadaha, Wazachata, Yakalama Nasa, Apa Sakarashata. Again, basic Hebrew, baby Hebrew, 1 to 22. Abba Gadaha, Wazachata, Yakalama Nasa, Apa Sakarashata. Aleph, Ba Beit, Ga Gimel, Da Dalet, Ha Hey, Wa Waw, Za Zain, Cha Chet, Ta Tet, Ya Yod, Ka Kaf, La Lamed, Ma Mem, Na Nun, Sa Samech, A Ain, Pa Pei, Sa Tzadai, Ka Kof, Ra Resh, Sha Shin, Ta Tau, Abagadaha, Wazachata, Yakalamana, Sa'apatsa, Karashata,
Rastafari, Abagadaha, Wazachata, Yakalamana, Sa'apatsa, Karashata.
For with stammering lips and another tongue, for with stammering lips and another tongue, for with stammering lips and stammering lips and stammering lips to this for with stammering lips and another tongue and another tongue to this for with stammering lips and another tongue will he speak to this people, to whom he said, This is the rest wherewith ye may cause the weary to rest, and this is the refreshing. Yet they would not hear. Are ye not as children of the Ethiopians unto me, O children of Israel, O children of Israel?
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad.
So here, Midrash, study here on today's Psalm, Mizmor Kof Kaf Wow, Psalm 126, Mizmor Kof Kaf Wow, Psalm CXXVI, a Midrash, a study here in the Beit Midrash, the house of study, here on today's Psalm. Shir Hama'ilot, Beshuv Yahuwah Eta Shabbat Zion, Hayinu Kecholmim, a song of the goings up. Shir Hama'ilot, Beshuv Yahuwah Eta Shabbat Zion, Hayinu Kecholmim, when Yahuwah Jehovah, he who be, brought back those that returned to Zion. Bishubi Yahuwah Eta Shabbat Zion, we were like them, like to them that dream. Hayinu Kecholmim. Rav Yochanan said, all the years of his life, Choni, that man renowned for righteousness, was troubled about this verse. He said, is it possible for a man to lie sleeping, to lay sleeping for 70 years? Choni said, is it possible for a man to lay sleeping for 70 years? And here, Midrash notes, the Babylonian captivity referred to in this verse lasted 70 years. The Babylonian captivity of the southern kingdom, the kingdom of Yehuda, of Judah, referred to in this verse, it lasted 70 years. See Jeremiah chapter 25, verse 11, and Jeremiah chapter 29, verse 10. The Babylonian captivity of the southern kingdom, the Judahites, the Yehudi, even we the black Jews, referred to in this verse, lasted for 70 years. One day, while Choni was walking along the road, he saw a man planting a carob tree. Choni asked, tell me now, in how many years will the carob tree bear fruit? The man replied, 70 years. Said Choni, art thou certain that I wilt live for 70 years more? Art thou certain that thou wilt live for 70 years more? The man replied, me? I found carob trees already planted
in the earth. And so, like my fathers, my patriarchs who planted carob trees for me, I plant carob trees for my children. Then Choni sat down to eat, and sleep came upon him. As he slept, a hedge grew up around Choni and concealed him from human eyes. And so he slept on for 70 years. When Choni awoke, he saw a man gathering fruit from the carob tree, and he asked, "Art thou the man who planted it?" And when the man replied, "I am the son of his son," Choni said to himself, "This seems to prove that it is possible to sleep for 70 years. And then, when he saw his ass, that by this time had borne many mules, Choni said, "Now it is certain that I have been laying asleep for 70 years." Choni went to Baito, to his house, and said, "I am Choni, the circle drawer." Here, Midrash note to the previous Midrash on Psalm 7, the 17th section, 17th Perek, 7.17. Ani lechozer, I repeat, Choni went to Baito, went to his house, and said, "I am Choni, the circle drawer." But his household did not believe him. He went to the house of study, the Beit Midrash. He went to the house of the Midrash, the Beit Midrash, the house of study, and he heard the rabbis, Ha-Rabbanim, say, "This tradition is as clear to us as it was in the days of Choni, the circle drawer." For whenever he had come to the house of study, the Beit Midrash, he had solved for Ha-Rabbanim, for the rabbis, every moot point they had. And he said, quote, "I am Choni, Ani Choni." But they did not believe him, and did not give him the honor that was due him. Full of despair, he asked for Adonai's mercy, and nafsho, his soul went to its rest. Rabbah declared, "People rightly say, either fellowship or death." Rabbah declared, "People rightly say, either fellowship or death." And here Midrash notes, so Rashi in the Babylonian Talmud 23a, the PE, the printed edition, and Buba have this, quote, either comradeship, chabarim, like Eob's comrades, or death. Either comradeship, which is fellowship, which is chabarim, like Job's comrades, or death. Rabbah declared, people rightly say, either chabarim, either fellowship, or death. Choni, the circle drawer, the son of Choni, the circle drawer's son, lived about the time of the destruction of Ha-Hekal, destruction of the temple. One day, he went out to a mountain to be with his workmen. While he was sitting there, rain began to come down, and so he went into a cave where he dozed off and fell asleep. He sank into a slumber that lasted the 70 years during that the temple, Ha-Hekal, was destroyed and rebuilt. At the end of the 70 years, when he woke from his sleep, he saw that the world had changed. Where olive groves had been, vineyards were growing. And where vineyards had been, olive groves were growing. He went towards the city and asked, "What's new in the world?" And they answered, "Knowest thou not what is new in the world?" "No," he said. Then they asked him, "Who art thou?" And he said, "I am Choni, the circle drawer." Whereupon they replied, "We have heard it said that whenever Choni, the circle drawer, came into a city, it shone." And here Midrash notes from the Palestinian Talmud 3 and 9, whenever Choni came into Ha-Hekal,
came into the temple court, it shone. So in the Palestinian Talmud 3 and 9, it says, whenever Honi came into Ha-Hekal, came into the temple court, it shone, it shined. When he came into the city, it did shine. And so, thinking of himself, he quoted the verse, when Yahweh Jehovah brought back those that returned to Zion, we were like to them that dream. Bishubi Yahweh eta shipata Zion, hayinu kecholmim. When he who he be, Yahweh Jehovah brought back those that returned to Zion. Bishu Yahweh eta shibata Zion. We were like to them that dream. Hayinu kecholmim. Then will our mouth be filled with laughter and our tongue with singing. Hear, the bait. The second verse of today's psalm is Mordkof, Kaf, Wow, Psalm 127. Az yimale sechokapinu u leshonenu rina. Then will our mouth be filled with laughter. Az yimale sechokapinu, and our tongue, o leshonenu, with singing, rina, az yimale sechokapinu, o leshonenu, rina. Rav Yochanan said in the name of Rav Shimona ben Yochai, in this world, a man must not fill his mouth with laughter, for it is said, then will our mouth be filled with laughter and our tongue with singing. It says, then, az yimale sechok apinu l'shonenu rina, then will our mouth be filled with sechok, yimale sechok apinu, then will our mouth be filled with laughter and our tongue, I tongue, with singing. O l'shonenu rina. And when is then? And when is then? When is az? When, as the next verse reads, they will say among the nations, Jehovah have done great things with these. Hear. The next verse, the Gimel in the next part of the verse. Here, actually in the bait verse going on. Here, the fuller verse, Az yimale sechok apinu uleshonenu rina. Then yomru bagoyim, then said they, yomru, among the nations, bagoyim, Az yomru bagoyim, Yahweh Jehovah have done great things with these. Higdil Yahweh la esota im eile. Higdili Yahweh la esot im eile. Jehovah hath done great things with these. Higdil Yahweh la esot im eile. It was said of Rav Shimon ben Lakish that after he heard what Rav Yochanan said, never again in all of his life did he fill his mouth with laughter. And here, Midrash note, this passage, it reflects the spirit, the irit, the spirit of deep mourning that prevailed among the Yehudim, among the Judahites, even we the black Jews, among the Yehudi and the Yehudim, after HaHekal, after the temple and the state were overthrown. This passage here, reflecting the spirit, the irit of deep mourning that prevailed among the Yehudim, among the Jews, even we the black Jews, after HaHekal, after the temple and the state were overthrown. Rav Jeremiah, Jeremiah, sitting in the presence of Rav Ze'erah, and seeing that Rav Ze'erah was overly cheerful, said to him, is it not written, for all sorrow there will be reward? Rav Jeremiah, Jeremiah, sitting in the presence of Rav Ze'erah, and seeing that Rav Ze'erah was overly cheerful, said to him, hear from the words of the Mashal, Proverbs, Mishle Shlomo, the Proverbs of Solomon, Proverbs chapter 14, verse 23. Is it not written, for all sorrow there will be reward? B'kol etzeb yihiyeh motar. B'kol etzeb yihiyeh motar. In all labor there is profit. B'kol etzeb yihiyeh motar. Or for all sorrow there will be reward. B'kol etzeb yihiyeh motar. In all labor there is profit. Rav Za'era answered, I wear tefillin. Rav Za'era answered, Rav Yirmiyahu, Jeremiah, who quoted Proverbs 14:23, for all sorrow there will be reward, which can also be translated as, in all labor there is profit. B'kol etzeb yihiyeh motar. And Rav Za'era answered, I wear tefillin. And here, Midrash note on this, his cheerfulness could not have been a disavowal of Ha-Elohim, of the true good, the true God, for he put on tefillin as an avowal, of thanks, a confession of Ha-Elohim, the true good, the true God's sovereignty, and a mark of confidence, of ifidence, of confidence in the future redemption of Yisrael. So when Rav Yirmiyahu, quoting the Proverbs, for all sorrow there will be reward, Rav Za'era answered, I wear tefillin, to say that his cheerfulness could not have been a disavowal of Ha'el, the true good, the true God of Ha-Elohim, for he put on tefillin as an avowal, a confession, a thanking, a confession of Ha-Elohim's sovereignty, and a mark of confidence, ifidence, confidence in the future redemption of Yisrael, of Kol Yisrael. Mar, the son of Rabina, made a wedding feast for Beno, for his son, and he saw that Ha-Rebanim, the rabbis, were becoming overly merry. He seized a costly goblet, a costly chalice worth 400 silver coins, and broke it before their eyes. Ha-Rebanim, the rabbis, became solemn again. Rav Ashi, too, made a wedding feast for Beno, his son, and seeing that Ha-Rebanim, that the rabbis were overly merry, he seized a goblet, a chalice of wine, of white crystal, a chalice of white crystal, a goblet of white crystal, and broke it before their eyes, so that Ha-Rebanim, the rabbis, became solemn again. Sometimes the word az, here in today's psalm, Mizmor Kof Kaf Wow, Psalm 126, sometimes the word az, then, meaning then, it denotes the future tense. As in the verse, then, as will our mouth be filled with laughter. As, Yemale, Sechok Pinu. As, then, will our mouth be filled with laughter. As, Yemale, Sechok Pinu. Sechok Finu. Turn our captivity, O Jehovah. Turn our captivity, O he who be, who he be. Shubah Yehovah eta shibutenu. Shubah Yehovah eta shibitenu. Turn our captivity, O he who be, who he be. Rav Yitzchak, Isaac taught, a day of heavy rain is as consequential as the ingathering of Yisrael, of Israel. As is said, even in today's Psalm, Mizmor Kof Kaf Wow, Psalm 126, here at the fourth verse, the Dalet verse, turn our captivity, O Jehovah, as the streams in the dry land. Shubah Yehovah eta shibutenu, ka efkim ba negev. Turn our captivity, O Jehovah, as the streams in the dry land. Ka efkim, ka as efkim, the streams, ba negev, ba negev, ba negev, ba in the negev, in the dry land, or in the Negev in the south. By Ifakim, Kal Fakim, by Fakim or Afakim, by streams, is clearly meant streaming rain. As in the verse, even the verse from 2 Samuel, chapter 22, verse 16, and the streams, Afikeh, and the streams of the sea appeared, and the streams, Afikeh, of the sea appeared. And here in the KJV, the verse is read, and the channels of the sea appeared. The foundations of the world were discovered at the rebuking of Jehovah, at the blast of the breath of his nostrils. So here we have the verse in 2 Samuel chapter 22, verse 16, that may also be translated as, and the streams of the sea appeared, and the channels of the sea appeared. Wayerawa Ifikeyama, Yigaloa Mosdota Tevella, Be'erata Yehovah, Mia Nishmata Ruacha Apo. The fuller verse, and the channels of the sea appeared. Wayerao Ifikeyam, and the channels of the sea, the streams, the Ifikey, Wayerao, and they being seen, Ifikey Yam, the channels of the sea, the streams, Ifikey Yam, the streams of the sea. Yigalua Mosdota Tevella. The foundations of the world were laid bare. The foundations of the world were discovered. Yigalu Mosdot Tevel, of the inhabitable portions of the earthly plane. Yigalu Mosdot Tevel, Be'erat Yehovah, Mia Nishmata Ruach Apo. At the rebuking of he who be, Be'erat Yehovah, Be'erat Yehovah, at the rebuking of he who be, at the blast of the breath of his nostrils. Mi nishmat, the nishmat, neshama, mi nishmata ruach apo. Wayarao efikeyama, ikalu mosdota tevella, be'erati Yehovah, mi nishmata ruach apo. They that sow in tears shall reap in joy. He that goeth forth and weepeth, bearing precious seed, shall doubtless come again with rejoicing, bearing his sheaves with him. Here today's psalm, Mizmor Kof Kaf Wow, Psalm 127. Here Hebraically the 5th and the 6th verses, the Hey and the Wow verses. They that sow in tears shall reap in joy. He that goeth forth and weepeth, bearing precious seed, shall doubtless come again with rejoicing, bearing his sheaves with him. Hazor'ima be-dima'ah, be-rina yikaz'oru, haloka yeleka, uabakoa noseya mesheka hazar'a, bo be-rina noseya ilumotayo. Rav Yehuda, Judah taught, an ox, as he goeth forth to his plowing, goes weeping, but at his returning, he eats the green shoots in the furrows. And here the metaphor, it changes here in today's psalm to life on the land. The peasant sows his seed with tears of anxiety, but when the time, the hour of reaping comes, tears give place to joy, to joyful singing. Ha-zora'ima be-dima'ah. They that sow be-dima'ah in tears. Ha-zora'im be-dima'ah. The sowers in tears. Ha-zora'ima be-dima'ah. Be-rimna yikatsoru shall reap yikatsoru. They shall reap yikatsoru. Be-rina shall reap in singing. Rina be-rina in joy. In joy. He that goeth forth. Halok yelek, goings, he goeth his goings, haloka yelek, ua bakoa, and weepeth, ua bako, ubakoa, no say, mesheka hazara, meshek hazara, bearing precious seed. No say, lifting, bearing, carrying, no say, meshek. Interesting, the word meshek, even here in today's psalm, we have meshek. What is the meshek? Meshek is translated as precious. Then in the 120th psalm, we have meshek, brought out as mesek in the translation as a place, but we have meshek, a sowing, a possession, something precious, having a price, meshek, from mashak, to draw, to sow, to sound, to prolong, to develop, to march, the sense of a sowing, also a possession, brought out here as precious, meshek hazara, meshek hazara, zara, the seed, precious, the seed, bo ya bo. Now the translation says, shall doubtless come again with rejoicing. Bo is like to go, his goings, bo ya bo, the rin, he shall come, the home, the idea is go, he going, berina, with joy, with singing, no say, illumotayo, no say, lifting, carrying, no say, illumotayo, bearing, carrying, illumotayo, carrying his sheaves, bearing his sheaves, the sense of carrying his sheaves with him. A different interpretation, a different targum. They that sow in tears. Hazorim bedima. They, the sowers in tears. They that sow in tears. This alludes to Yaakov. This alludes to Jacob, who, being afraid, wept as he sowed his father's braka, as he sowed his father's blessings, berkoto. That is to say, as participating in the deception whereby he would obtain his father's berkot, his father's baraka, berkato, his father's blessing. Saying, Wayomer, him saying, my father peradventure perhaps will feel me. Even here in Bereshit, in Genesis chapter 27, verse 12. Ulai yemusheni abi, my father perhaps, ulai perhaps, yemusheni, feel me abi, my father perhaps will feel me. Shall reap in joy. This also alludes to Yaakov. This alludes to Jacob. Here, berina yiksoru, berina yiksoru, shall reap in joy, also alludes to Yaakov, to whom it was said, even in Bereshit, in Genesis chapter 27, verse 28, so God give thee of the dew of heaven, and of the fat places of the earth, and plenty of corn and wine. Ve'yiten leka ha'elohim mit'ala hashamayim u'a mishamane ha'aretz ve'rov dagan ve'tirosh. So ha'elohim give thee of the dew of heaven, of the dew of the heavens. Ve'yiten leka ha'elohim mit'al hashamayim, and of the fat places of the earth. U'a mishamane ha'aretz, and plenty with robe, and nuff with robe, and plenty of corn and wine with robe, dagana with tirosh. With yitena leka Elohim mit'al hashamayim mishmane haaretz, with robe dagana with tirosh. And he that goeth and weepeth. Here in today's psalm, the 6th verse, the wild verse. He that goeth on his way weeping and weepeth. Halok yeleka uabakoa. Halok yeleka uabakoa. He that goeth and weepeth. This alludes to Yaakov, to Jacob, of whom it was said, even in Bereshith in Genesis chapter 29, verse 11, and Jacob lifted up his voice and wept. And Yaakov and Jacob lifted up his voice and wept. Yaakov, Vayisa etekolo, Vayabik. Here the fuller verse, and Jacob kissed Rachel and lifted up his voice and wept. Vayishaka Yaakov le Rachel, Vayisa etekolo, Vayabik. And Jacob kissed Rachel, and lifted up his voice and wept. Vayishaka Yaakov le Rachel, Vayisa etekolo, Vayabik. And bearing precious seed, Nosei Mesheka Hazara, Nosei Mesheka Hazara, bearing precious seed. Here the wild verse of today's psalm, Psalm 126, bearing precious seed alludes to Yaakov, alludes to Jacob, bearing the tribes out of Haran, and shall doubtless come again with rejoicing, bringing his sheaves with him, and shall doubtless come again with rejoicing. Bo yabo berina, bringing his sheaves with him. Nosei elumotao. This alludes to Yaakov, Jacob. Jacob's bringing back with him sheaves of young men and young women. Sheaves of young men and young women. And here, Midrash, the final Midrash note on today's Psalm, Mizmor Kof Kaf Wow, Psalm 126. Here we have a play on Aluma in Elumotao. Elumotao. His sheaves. Here we have Aluma, sheaf. We have sheaf. We have Elam, young man. We have Alma, young woman. Here referred to the Bereshith Rabbah, the Genesis Rabbah 79:4. Here, a play on Aluma, sheaf, and Elam, young man, and Alma, young woman. Bo yabo berina nose lumotayo. He shall come again, come home with joy, with singing, bearing his sheaves with him.
All seeds, right here, little Hebrew interlude. Chop, come on.
כל הזרעים ששתלנו, ים האבות שהפרחנו, רבות הדרכים שסללנו, שונות ומשונות החלטות שקיבלנו. אדמה צמאה למים כמוני לא פחות, עצים צריכים אוויר וגם אני רוצה לחיות בעולם כה משונה שהכל כל כך שונה, רע וטוב מתערבבים וזה לא במקרה. מתערבב לו עם הצחוק, במצבים מסוימים צריך הכל הצד לדחוק. יש מחכים שהמזל יעבור בדלת וידפוק, ויש כאלה שיודעים שהעולם ישתוק. כל הזרעים ששתלנו, ים האבות שהפרחנו, רבות הדרכים שסללנו, שונות ומשונות החלטות שקיבלנו. אדמה צמאה למים כמוני לא פחות, עצים צריכים אוויר וגם אני רוצה לחיות בעולם כה משונה שהכל כל כך שונה, רע וטוב מתערבבים וזה לא במקרה. על דרך שהכל כל כך שונה, רע וטוב מתערבבים, וזה לא במקרה. והימים שעוברים את הטוב לא שוכחים, את הרצמים בצד וממשיכים בחיים, החיים ממשיכים, ולא לא לא עוצרים לרגע, לא נחים. על דרך המלך רוצים לעלות, לתקן את העולם, לנסות לשנות, מביטים אל המחר בעיניים פקוחות, בתוך המציאות בונים לנו תקוות. כל הזרעים ששתלנו ים אבות, שהפרחנו רבות הדרכים שסללנו, שונות ומשונות החלטות שקיבלנו. אדם מצמא למים כמוני לא פחות, עצים צריכים אוויר וגם אני רוצה לחיות בעולם כה משונה שהכל כל כך שונה, רע וטוב מתערבבים, וזה לא במקרה.
Sukkot, and that's tabernacles right there, and here Shabuot, some of the same readings. But when I introduced that, I said call Ha-Zorim, and then I recognized, why I said Ha-Zorim? That's the reapers. Here it's I say Zarim, and then we notice another local the duality in the Hebrew as we have in today's daily psalm where it speaks about Ha-Zorim, like they that sow right there. And then we have Zarim, call Ha-Zarim, all seeds, call Ha-Zorim, all the sowers, sowing and sowing and sowing. And here, classic right here, till some more. Yes, the Holy Spirit in the upper room, count the seed and the fruit, of the Holy Spirit, in one's soul and one's life and liberty, and give thanks. Right here. Yes, I. Azari.
Well, I celebrate the Almighty Father with praise, and yes, black people, I love you always. Farmer man till it's some more, till this side some more. Here war a gwan and the ghetto youth poor. Till it's some more, ain't so I miss a poor. Yo ghetto youth collabo, so farmer man till it's some more. Till it's some more, politician war a gwan so put the food on me door. Till it's some more, till it's some more. Yo, make the youth set secure now. This is the awakening, rise from the dust. Get so you stop complaining and go manifest your work as early as the morning with the load of the clock with food from east, west, north, and from sun. Me bring it come a Kingston, we full up them guts. Get so you hungry, me a beg you no fuss nobody laugh because the government oppose me now go carry them stuff. Don't get rooks off and not get brush. So till is some more, Get so you hungry, me say get so you spoil. Till is some more, till this side some more. Babylon a war and you hungry and poor farmer. Till this some more, just till this side little more. Get a youth hungry and the black woman them poor. Till it's some more, Yo, bunty a door. Then them a war. When the bingy youth are you still a see I like water in a rock, me come fearing them dry, me come free of all of them. Problem pacify and pacify, satisfy. Get a youth we send a cry. Remember to yell emperor still a see I. Cease from your heart, put on your gun and be a get a youth a die. How give your authority your little guy. Till some more, you see get a youth a fuss and get a youth a live for. Till this side some more, sizzler till this style more. Now them have the get a youth collaborate me self it is some more. Give me righteousness more. Dear war a go and get a youth collaborate. Give me little more, give me the good earth for sure. I look
over east. And I gather Rastafari children and make them know sense. Babylon system is the beast and the head is John Pope and Elizabeth and the rest of all of them way I mix up in a meat and them bloody feet. I've them together seeds and from poor people them a cheat. Me tell the ghetto youth and them now figure how beneath cause Babylon have up them white sin. Kill it some more, kill it some more. Be a war go on and get a youth step on. Kill it some more, kill it some more. Yo, farmer put down all the food and me door. Me say till it some Babylon no kill nothing more. Or else Rasta a God judge your face or no kill nothing more. Righteousness more. Get a youth hungry and poor. Well then, rise up from the awakening, from the dust. No complaint for manifest your work as early as the morning load up morning talk. From his
Chag Ha, Shabuot Sameach, happy, happy harvest feast, Pentecost, Holy Spirit in the upper room. Shalom, Chaverim. Shalom. Yeshua Shalom.
Thank you for using Blog Talk Radio. Goodbye.